Vent Don't Lie from UGAsports.com. It's a 15-minute show. We have 4, 5-ish topics, whatever it ends up being. I'm Dayne Young. That's Brent Rollins. Georgia has hired a new offensive outside linebackers coach. I almost said offensive line coach, though they did that too. That was a couple weeks ago. Outside linebackers coach Larry Knight comes in from Arkansas State, pit stop on West Virginia, your neck of the woods with the helmet over your shoulder up there. Larry Knight, what do we think of this hire, Brent? Edge specialist, pass rush specialist. That's how he's labeled. What have you seen from him?
I did think it was interesting that in his previous, the hire at West Virginia, when it announced it did say that pass rush specialist, and then here it says outside linebackers coach. Like we can't be termed that here in a way. But no, in terms of, it's one of those where you never know until you see someone at that level. But I will say this: okay, what do you want to look at from a coach? Did their team perform to the level of expectation? Did you perform sort of over expectation? And if you look at Arkansas State a year ago, the first 5 games versus the last 5 games, pass rush grade and how they performed were their best. So in terms of getting better over the season, also you want to look at individual players. Did they improve under your watch? There was a couple different guys that one had double-digit sacks that didn't even play in 2024. So like guys that you didn't have a lot of production. It's not like you were handed a bunch of talent and then you just regurgitated that talent. He actually took some of those things and made them there. But I will say this in terms of the actual hire itself. I don't know how much impact you're going to see. It might be over time. It might be little tiny things. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, I don't know that it's going to be this all of a sudden, Georgia's getting 5 sacks a game kind of thing.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, Brent, because some of this is Chidera Uzodiribe leaves for the NFL. It is tough to replace this time of year to find an assistant coach because a lot of this has already happened. Like you would prefer the shuffle happen in mid-January rather than mid-February. Sometimes it's out of your control. And so Georgia had to kind of go outside of its own network. They didn't have, people said, could Jarvis Jones be a guy they bring back in? He doesn't really have college coaching experience at that level. So to me, you're just trying to kind of keep what Chidera had been doing. And it seems like Larry has all of those elements.
Yeah. And you'll see it to me in how they play. And do the guys play hard? Do kids play hard for you? And if not, do you replace them quickly? I think that's.
I heard Will Muschamp say one time that the primary on-field coaching that require technique, quarterback, obviously, offensive line coaching. He said most of everything else is, can you motivate guys to do their job?
Yep.
Most of everything else. There are some particulars in there. I do think you want your inside linebacker to be kind of the coach on the field. That is pretty common. But for this is going to be like, can you get the guys here? That's a piece of it. So relationship building and recruiting. I think him being from Augusta helps. And then, can you motivate them to work? And look, this is a guy that Rich Rodriguez and Kirby Smart hired within, about 4 months? It's pretty good to have 2 coaches of that caliber say that about you.
Yeah, I don't think Kirby's hiring anybody that's meh. Some might disagree, but I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
The connector is Andrew Thacker, used to be a Georgia Tech assistant coach. Now he's Georgia's star and nickel coach. They coach together, Larry and Andrew Thacker at Georgia Tech. There are probably other connectors as well. That's the most obvious one when you look at resumes. All right, let's move on to Georgia basketball. Big win for Georgia at Rupp Arena. I thought the season was ending, Brent. I thought they were sliding out of the tournament, done with this thing, and that saved their potential, in my opinion.
Oh, gosh, this was a season-altering win. It was a season-altering game. Now, could they turn around and lose 2 games they're supposed to win? Yes, very easily. But what you saw in that game, you saw shrinking of rotation. You saw Santos Real play to the level consistently that he can. He wasn't, it wasn't the drama and falling on the floor all the time. It was, hey, I'm going to go get rebounds and block shots and try to score at the rim and dunk the ball, which is what he should do every game. Wilkinson being back, huge as another scorer. But Blue Cane, too, just consistently there all these years. If he's making shots, it's a completely different team. And to me, when it's time to shorten the rotation. It's time the game isn't 100 miles an hour like it was early in the season. You're playing all these guys. All right, play your best guys, ride or die with those guys. And it was great to see the success that they had in that game. Now, can you build off of it and completely turn around their season, maybe potentially be a team because the talent is there to go win a game or two in the tournament.
Texas this weekend, massive, because the winner of that game probably has a leg up into being, all right, you're not only on the bubble, you're probably slightly inside.
You're clearly in, basically.
Yeah, and the other probably has some work to do beyond that. It will help Georgia's case if Alabama is not eligible because of their whole G League fiasco. I'll be curious to see.
It's a heck of a game last night. I watched that game. Arkansas back and forth, double overtime, 100. Yes, heck of a game last night. But still, huge game. First time since 09. Like, I think I saw it was on the 5th time in like 71, whatever it was, at Rupp. Like, crazy, shocking win.
And yet, it was not the biggest win of the week for Georgia basketball because the Georgia women beat number 5 Vandy at home last week. And if Georgia fans, if you don't know about Dayne Carnegie, you need to go check her out because averaging 18.5 a game and in recent form is in the 20s every game. That is, look, I don't think Georgia basketball can go compete with South Carolina and UConn. They just don't have the horses for that. But for them to do this, it's a strong.
They've at least made strides.
Yeah, it's a strong, especially coming out of last year, which I was like, "Ooh, boy, this is not." I mean, not even sniffing. You know, this is. Glad you got an invitation to the SEC tournament because I didn't know if you qualified for that in recent years. And this Georgia team feels more like what we were used to under Andy Landers. Of like, they have a chance. Sweet 16, maybe you get to the Elite 8. In a wild world, maybe you get an upset and you get in the Final Four. It's a lot of progress for Coach Abe, and man, that I'm just excited for that because Stegman's a lot of fun when Georgia's good, and both of these teams are better than they typically are.
There you go.
And Georgia women's
tennis. I saw what's up with that. I haven't been following that.
Yeah, Georgia women's tennis has won 3 straight national championships now, if you account for indoor and outdoor. So they have the indoor that happens at, this was 2 weeks ago, and that was back-to-back indoor titles for UGA women's tennis. And then they won the outdoor last year over Texas A&M at the end. So Jeff Wallace, legendary coach, retires. Drake Bernstein takes over, and now he has 3 titles under his belt. It's just an incredible start. They are the top program in women's tennis, and all of tennis, and the men's side's doing pretty well too. And then we reported on UGAsports.com this week. Looks like a coaching change is coming for UGA golf, first time in 30 years, as Chris Hack will be taking another role, kind of an advisory situation, and then picking his mentee to take over that spot. Georgia golf, good for a long time, but change at the guard. Landers, Hack, Diaz, Wallace, Bowerly, Lou Harris, Champer.
Legendary. That's a legendary list right there.
All those legends. Claude Felton, I put him there. You know, there's a new crop, and they're doing well. All right, you had a comment on the DawgVent about wide receivers in 2026. Let's get into that.
So I was looking at and rewatching a lot of the games from last season. 3rd or 4th down in like 5+ yards, known passing situations. Who are you going to? And last year, Branch had 16 catches on 22 targets. Cash Jones, 9 on 13 targets. Dylan Bell, 8 on 10 targets. Basically, 37 of the team's 46 receptions in those known passing situations are gone.
Yeah.
To the NFL, all to the NFL. And it's like they pose the question on the vent, who's actually going to be those go-to options in 2026? And it's a lot of unknown. And I think, let me find it, who made the first comment. Donaldsonville, Dawg. We sure need some guys to grow quickly. Yeah, I agree. That's basically what's going to happen because the guys that were brought in heavily last year, is it Talon or Talon? I need to
Talon Taylor is what I've always heard.
Yeah. Okay. He's the one to me that I look at in the receiver room, just because like you watch him pregame and it's like, okay, that guy's the 5-star receiver. I think everybody else is going to get better. Humphrey's going to be there. Landon Rollins going to be there. Wiley's going to be there. Like they're going to be there and do things. But in terms of elevating to really, really good, I think he's the one. Sokovia is in the slot there. But the biggest thing for me is the tight ends. Delt played 714 snaps last year. Elias Williams, that should be the minimum snap count for him this year, barring health issues. Like he's got to be on the field all the time. He's a matchup nightmare. Consistent. Him and Barber, like you can see early in the season, they really like Barber just as a receiver. Some of the things they were having him do. Those two guys got to be on the field consistently for me.
Here's one thing. Media coverage for this wide receiver group over the next 6 months is going to be a lot of throwing darts at walls, because until we see some of this, like, we really don't know. We're going to like ask everyone what they're seeing, but like coaches don't know until you start seeing some of this too. The educated guesses would be the Talon Taylors and the Sokovie Whites and CJ Wiley replacing some of those roles. And you can look at their bodies and try to figure out.
And Canyon is a transfer senior receiver as well, like him at the X.
If you see this, Brent, this is going to trip people up. If you see Landon Roldan compared to the typical archetype, stereotype Patriots white possession receiver, based primarily on skin color, if nothing else, that's going to tell you that media person is kind of lazy, because that ain't Roldan.
No,
Roldan is now. I'm not saying he's this fast. I'm saying his game more like an Arian Smith.
Yes, very much so.
That would be the comp. So he's the burner down the field, do a good job in blocking, that kind of thing. But he's not Chris Durham throwing his body across the middle. That's not going to be Landon Roldan.
No. And there were some routes he won, like the little bit of routes that he got last year. He won those routes. Like that's such an unknown when you see, and it's one where you're going to probably point a lot to the quarterback. Like, hey, last year Branch elevated you. Now you have to elevate the others around you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I like the concept, because I think this is going to be a key for Georgia. We're going to walk into that first game not exactly knowing who those targets are going to be. And I think we're going to walk out of the first game saying, you got to go to Elias Williams more. And you may say, well, they target him 15 times. I don't care. Go to him more.
Give it to the big fella. That's for sure.
Final topic that we have. This was fantastic. Papa Sweet's dog on the DawgVent, who has been, I'm trying to see if that tells me how long, joined in 2003. This is a lifer out there.
Lifer.
Papa Sweet's dog's been on the board and had a great offseason topic of the most unpopular Brave since 1990. Give me your starting lineup. And I'll run through his real fast, and then there's a whole thread on the DawgVent people can go check. Tyler Flowers at catcher, went with Casey Kochman at first base, Dan Uglett second, Alex Gonzalez at short, Chris Johnson at third, BJ/Melvin Upton left field, Nate McLeod, Jordan Schaefer in center, Nick Markakis and right. I thought Nick was likable. Pitchers, Derek Lowe, Kenshin Kawakami, Mike Hampton, JoJo Reyes, Chris Rietzma, Dan Cole, Bob Wickman, Freddie Gonzalez as a manager. I love this topic, and I don't have a full rundown, but I do have some other additions. What about you?
Yeah, the manager one I definitely agreed with. Like, he's very much unpopular. I still remember, he was the manager when Kimbrel was sitting in the bullpen that one year in the playoffs, right? Yeah. So that one. BJ Upton, definitely, because you think about unpopular. It's not like these guys are like total dirtbags and you just don't like them. It's more about, hey, the expectations were a lot higher and you stunk. And
John Rocker is a little bit of both of those, right? Like, you loved him, then you learned more about him, and you were like, maybe not my cup of tea. He could still throw heat, and that was great. And the second he couldn't, you're like, ooh, boy.
Yeah, or it's like, hey, we know you're hyper talented. Why can't you put it together? Like, for me, that one is Mike Fultonevich. Like, he had a game where he looked like potential number one ace, and then he'd have the playoff game where he came up 10 runs or whatever, how many runs he gave him that first inning of that playoff game. But the other one, like, for me, spinning it forward, I think who's the most unpopular Brave right now, and it's not his own fault. It's Bryce Elder, because when he pitches, that means somebody else is hurt. I mean, so available. His availability as a skill is his greatest skill, but it's like, okay, yeah, there's limitations there because he's a 89 to 92 guy, but it's like another year, and we've already got that because we got two guys hurt already in the rotation.
The other option on that would be Jurickson Profar, because they invested a lot in him and then he gets suspended. But I mean, I've heard Bill Shanks say this: Profar, great clubhouse guy. Like, he was fantastic.
And played well when he came back last year. So
yeah. Hector Olivera was the one that I thought of because the Braves traded a lot to get him and were planning to build around him. And within about 6 months, it was obvious this guy can't be part of your franchise. And that happens every so often in sports. Great topic
though, because like, is it bad? Is it personality? Is it just okay there? But I agreed with BJ Upton very much so.
Yeah. Do you remember one of the greatest memes of all time? Up and a hay, because you had Justin and BJ and Jason Hayward.
Yep.
That's it. Vent don't lie. UGAsports.com. Go check out the DawgVent over at UGA Sports. We'll see y'all next time.